Welcome back to Lil Life Chats. This is episode 4, and this week's guest, she's done it all. We can call her a writer, we can call her a poet, we can call her a screenwriter, a model, a basketballer, everything in between, and now footballer. Saraid Taylor, welcome to the pod.
Hey Lil, thanks for having me.
I listed off a lot of things. How does that, sit with you? Because there's a lot of things that I guess encompass you as a person.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Some of them seem too complimentary. I think in a lot of those realms, I'm just emerging. And in some, I'm like, for example, model. I would not call myself at all. But I definitely enjoy sort of a wide array of things. So anything that I can sort of have a crack at, I'm happy to see how we go.
On the model front, just quickly, there are a lot of photos circulating of you in the modelling world. You've definitely worked with some different brands. There is a lot. If you Google Saraid Taylor, I implore you to do so because there is some great content which often pop up in the weekly meetings.
Thank you to Ree. Yeah.
Ree loves the model pics.
Ree does, and it is absolutely mortifying. Every time Ree gets her PowerPoint out, I'm excited because she's so funny, and I'm also deeply afraid because I feel like often there's a lot coming my way.
So would that suggest that your modelling career is over?
It might, purely out of fear of Ree. Done.
Ree Watt is meant to be, making everyone feel good, really just kind of practicing the demon spirit, but it's affected you negatively. I'm sorry about that.
Just a little bit, but I'm tough, and through demon spirit and teammates, we carry on.
Yeah, we do carry on. Well, okay, so we'll cancel out the modelling aspect.
Yes, please.
A writer. That's probably more, suited, and you'd feel more comfortable calling yourself a writer.
Yeah, I probably feel more comfortable with that.
Take us through, I guess, your writing journey. You've done a degree in writing?
Yeah.
So one, tell us about that, and then two, I guess, where that's led you now, and you're currently writing a book, and you've got your own sort of newsletter subscription-based model that's keeping everyone up to date, but I guess holistically, like your love of writing and where that started.
So I've always wanted to be a writer. I've always wanted to be an athlete and a writer. Since I was probably 8 years old, I was a novelist. I just wanted to publish books. And I studied screenwriting at university, which isn't quite novel writing, but I'm so glad I did it. It's writing for film and television, so it was really, really cool. And then, sorry, am I looking at that or am I looking at
No, look at me. We're just having a chat.
What are we doing? Which way? Okay. I'm like looking at everybody. Inclusive. Okay.
Saraid is a performer. If you're somehow seeing this, she's working the room.
What was I saying? Writing.
Yep, writing.
So I graduated from my screenwriting course, which was film and television. And as part of our main graduate thing, we work on a screenplay. So I wrote a television series. But
talk us through that.
Basically, the entire year, our main project is either a film or a television, like a pilot episode. And then at the end, we pitch it. So we pitched it to like ABC, there were Netflix people all over, all different kind of producers. But secretly the whole time I was really just thinking about writing novels. And then I knew I knew as soon as I finished my course, I'd try and spend a year writing a novel. Hopefully get it picked up somewhere, and then go from there. I'm very much still interested in the film and television industry, but for now, trying to finish the novel that I'm now contracted to write isn't a priority.
So how did you get from, I guess, conceptualizing a book idea to then actually having it picked up by a publisher, and then it's such an interesting thing. I don't think there's many athletes that can go around saying they're a novelist and a writer and an author. So hence my sort of follow-up questions.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would find this quite interesting.
There's a lot of failure. Like I would say that demarcates the entire journey for me. So much failure, heaps of rejections, not just in the novel, but like the short fiction. Oftentimes you submit to other places to try and build up enough of a portfolio to like get picked up somewhere. So the process was me just submitting, getting rejected. Pretty much brought like 18 months after university. I really thought, holy moly, this is not going well. Like I'm talking like half a success, like half a journal acceptance like story, and then even then it didn't end up happening. So I was like, wow, we are
Miles away.
We're miles and miles away. And I actually wrote about it. So I wrote an essay and it was called like 111 Failures 2021. That was my year, 2021, during lockdown. Really great fun, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And then within...
It's exactly what you want in lockdown. Just getting punched down time and time again. Failure is my middle name. So like, good.
Brushing teeth in the morning, like wake up first thing, a rejection email, like late at night, about to go to sleep, check emails before bed. Don't do it. Reject an email, just all the time. And then within like 2 months or something of 2022, it really changed quickly because I won a writing competition. I won a couple actually, but a main one that a publisher pretty much, like mind you, I've spent since I was like 15 or something, 14, so embarrassingly, emailing publishers being like, I have a story, can I submit it to you? Like, oh my goodness. And then I had a publisher reach out to me and then caught up for coffee and pretty much it went to an acquisition meeting and from there I was contracted. So life is fickle and strange, but I probably wouldn't change it. It's taught me a lot.
Yeah, I bet. And can you tell us about the novel that you're currently writing and hopefully readers will be able to pick up on bookshelves
really
next year?
Soon. Yeah.
Early next year, is it?
Early next year is, we're hoping, but we'll see. It's a bit of a long process, this novel writing business.
So what can you tell us about it?
What can I tell you about it? It's literary
Which
fiction.
You never answer the question directly.
I'm like, woo.
Ever.
It's literary fiction. It's new young adult, which means it's sort of in the junction between young adults set in like high school and then adult, which is like 30 to 40 sort of genre range. It's coming of age, I'd say. Coming of age in your 20s is my most succinct answer. Otherwise, I usually babble a little bit. But like that, does that sum it up?
Yeah. I know exactly what it is. I can get a real picture as to who the main character is, what the storyline's going to be. I really understand it.
Did it tell you anything at all? I don't think so, did it? It's about basketball and family and life. I think because obviously I've come from basketball. Here's a neat segue for you. I've come from basketball, so it's sort of set in that dynamic of coming of age in like that really harsh professional environment and then sort of soft potentially rest of life.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, I can't wait to read it. I've become a reader more recently. I finished a book on the plane on the way back from WA, so I'm loving myself sick for finishing a book.
Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. The Ned Brockman book.
Ooh, Ned Brockman book.
Yep, incredible. What a runner. You mentioned basketball. Also a huge part of your life.
Yes.
You grew up playing. You played Southside Flyers, played for Dandenong.
Did your research, Lil?
I just know this because we're friends and we chat.
That too. Yeah.
No, but tell us through, I guess, your journey about basketball. You obviously grew up playing.
I did. Yes.
Loved it, I assume?
I did love it. I started when I was about 5 years old, so little one running around, and I played it all the way up until pretty much last year. Like I'm not currently playing, I'm focused just on footy, despite that little 3-on-3 trip mid-season.
We'll get there.
All the way through, and was always really, along with novel writing, like being a novelist, wanted to be like I thought a WNBL athlete, like an athlete. And so that's what I was working towards. Had 6 years in the WNBL franchise, 3 years each in 2 different teams because they renamed themselves. I was playing NBL 1 and sort of Seabull when it was Seabull and all through juniors, etc.
What position did you play?
I played like a wing. So that's a bit of everything really.
Yeah, wow. You can do it all. See, when I told you in the intro that she does it all.
Definitely not doing it all, attempting it all, and then just sitting somewhere in the moderate, mediocre range. But yeah, the wing sort of like guard, forward, post. I was lucky enough to sort of play a little bit of everywhere. Yeah.
And then when was it when you decided that you'd give footy a crack?
It happened really fast as well. Like I'd been thinking about it for ages. I'd watched the rise of the AFLW and just admired it. That first of all, the athletes who were the backbone of getting the league up, who worked so hard, and then just the way the AFL really embraced it, I'd say, in terms of a movement for women's sport and made it a really viable opportunity for players coming through. I'm like, be careful what I say about basketball. I'm like, ooh.
You're not controversial.
I'm not at all. I'm a delicate little flower. When did it change? So pretty much it literally was not a year ago now, a bit more than a year ago. It was June maybe of last year that I had an opportunity to come and try out at Richmond. which I did a couple of interviews and some trial sessions. And then bang, I was signed as an alternative athlete, and I'll forever feel indebted to Richmond for giving me that opportunity. I was delisted after a season. I was in their VFLW program. Shout out to the Borough, Port Melbourne, because they were really great as well. And then was just ridiculously lucky to be picked up in Melbourne and find myself here. So privileged.
So was it pretty much when you started the conversation with Richmond that you gave away basketball, or were you doing the both at the same time?
So I was still contracted to my NBL 1 team, and I made it clear that because I'd signed that contract first, I was the captain of that team. I didn't feel like I could just say see ya. So I was going to finish off that season. And so I did both at that time. I didn't train as much, but I was there at all of the sessions, still prioritising basketball just to finish out that season. And then as soon as that season ended, it was straight into footy. Been there since.
And then at the same time you were riding?
Yes.
So where did you have a minute? Because I know now at the moment all you do during your days is write, and you just seem absolutely bound to putting pen to paper.
Yeah.
Time management for you, were you playing 2 sports as well as writing a novel?
Yes. In a very frenzied way, I'd say, and not much downtime.
You are kind of chaos.
Me, so calm, chaotic. It honestly is. I wouldn't say we're still working on the life-work balance. I would describe it as, because pretty much anytime I'm not training, I'll be writing. And if I'm not writing, I'm training. So sorry to my friends outside sport. Lucky I have friends inside sport, and I get to see people. Otherwise, yes, I'd be probably a little punk just locked in my room all the time, juggling the different metaphorical balls in there.
And your experience at Richmond, talk us through that. Obviously, encapsulates, I guess, your transition from one sport to the other. Were you familiar with footy? Had you played as a junior? Did you understand the rule? Like, what was your experience to footy prior to that, and then I guess coming into it at the top level?
I was so raw. Like, I was the rawest of the raw. I had never really kicked a ball. Like, I'd kicked a ball, but not well. Like, not like a footballer. My most sort of experience in the game was markers up. Like, I played heaps of markers up as a kid.
Was that at school
the girls
or in the
and boys?
backyard?
Yeah, like with cousins and stuff, friends in the playground at probably primary school, but had never played footy. And even like during high school, when my friends would go and play inter-school footy, it was always like, make sure I'm careful for basketball, don't get injured, look after yourself, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I'd always adored the sport. Like, I'd watched it. I probably watched more footy and gone to more games than basketball, like than WNBL, but it was just never a viable option. So not for 1 second did I ever think that I could even attempt to be a footballer. I was always going to be a basketballer. Like, that was what I could see. That's who I adored. Like, I had so much respect for the WNBL league. I idolised the players, and therefore that's who I wanted to be. But the opportunity for football, like, could not be more grateful to be sitting here talking to you right now, Lil, with our funky little microphones.
Yes, the microphones are beautiful, beautifully branded.
They are. Melbourne.
And then I guess you already spoke about failure in the writing sense, and then being delisted only after 1 year.
Yeah.
And as you explained, like, you came in very new to the sport, probably expecting a little bit more of an opportunity to play at the top level and be developed by a club that had initially shown a bit of faith. How was, I guess, dealing with that sort of failure, and what were you thinking at that time? The pathway and what your next steps were going to look like?
Yeah, it was a really, really interesting time. I would say, like with writing, yes, the failures, and also just sport in general, all of my basketball has been really characterised by failure. So it's not really something that I'm unused to. Unfortunately, very, very used to it. So it didn't even seem like I was shattered, and it coincided with the death of my grandfather. So it was a very tumultuous kind of time. And I'd headed straight into the VFLW program with probably only a couple of weeks after that AFLW initial season. And before then, basketball doesn't ever have any preseason. We just sort of roll from WNBL straight into NBL 1, so there's no real break. So it was a bit of a Fruit Loop, I'd say. Like, in terms of emotional stability, not much going stably. But that's something that I really try and pride myself on, is just continuing anyway, and eventually it sort of gets easier. Not falling off the horse. Like, sounds like such a cliche, but I think sometimes if you stop, it can be really, really hard to regain. So yes, just pushing forward, being kind enough on myself to not be too critical, but then also gentle enough to know that like it's okay to feel sad. Just keep going. Hold on.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It's a great message and great way to, I suppose, look at it. So, and which would have, I guess, set you up to play some successful Port Melbourne footy and play some good footy there, which then I assume is when Todd picked up the phone and reached out.
Yeah, that was an absolute whirlwind. I think it's all been a whirlwind. Still need to process probably the last, I don't even know, 2 years or so. My first VFLW game was my first game of footy ever. I'd done a couple of scrimmages the season, like during Richmond season, which is like the scratch matches we're still doing with non-selected players. But that was my first game. And so then I think I just got better after each one. Obviously, you would hope so. You would hope for the trajectory upwards.
Got to start low.
Yeah, start at the bottom and hope you just slight incline. And then by my fifth game, Todd essentially, Mum and Dad were acting very mysterious. They were at the game and they said after it, I was going in the team rooms with the girls. They're like, you need to check your phone. Keep your phone on you the whole time. And I was like, pretty much, so ominous. And I just said, can you please give me some more detail? And they would not. But then I had a message from Todd and he said, can I give you a call? Can you give me a call? And I think I called him in the middle of his roast dinner. And I was very apologetic, but we had a good chat.
He wouldn't have cared. It was probably Brooke, his wife, that cared, being like, oh, Todd again on the phone trying to recruit.
Yeah, had a mouthful of food and everything. And then within, I think not the day, it was a Saturday night, so Monday morning I came into the club, had a tryout session with Mick and Sloaney, and then an interview, and then pretty much came in the next day, got sprung into the big room with my face very close up on the board, very overwhelming, and was signed.
Crazy.
Wild.
Yeah. Because I assume, what were you thinking that you would do? Did you think you were going to try and get back onto a list, or were you going to go back to basketball, or where was your head at?
Yeah, so very interesting question. It was never... As much as I haven't closed the door completely on basketball, I was not just coming to dabble in footy. Like if I was coming and having even that season with Richmond, like showing that kind of investment in me, like I was prepared to really commit. So it was definitely something that I was in for the long haul, and I just wanted to get better because I feel like I do have potential in footy. So we'll see, won't we?
You do. You definitely do. You're an incredible athlete.
And so I was really just... I think I'm going to win a premiership with the Borough. Like the team is so strong. I was so happy to be there. And then they did end up winning. Did not need me at all. That's
Which you missed.
A strong group. Yeah.
Sad.
But it was great to come and watch. Like the girls so deserved it. But that was pretty much what I was thinking. I'll get there, do the season, hopefully get picked up again. My agent at the time said there was no one looking. There was no opportunities. So basically don't bother until like next year. But then was really lucky to have a bit of change of fate. And here I am.
How are you enjoying your time at the footy club, at the D's?
I love it. I really do. Like I don't just say that. I think on and off the field, the program is incredible. Really, really professional, and professional in the sense of we're allowed to have fun and everyone knows when it's time to just knuckle down and work. So the balance is definitely being struck here. And I think that translates to the field. You see how well everyone plays together. And also the scrimmages, you see how many staff rock up, the girls who come, everyone's very connected. So yeah, definitely glad to be here.
I'm glad you're loving it because we love having you. The team at Zurich Insurance have been protecting Australians for over 100 years, from individuals and families to businesses large and small. They're your go-to life insurance, income protection and business insurance. So check out their website or speak with your financial advisor to see how they can support you. Now, let's head back to the podcast. You mentioned balance, and you also sort of alluded to it earlier on about the 3v3 that you played in Serbia. Mm-hmm. Talk us through that. That was a couple of weeks ago. I remember, I think it was a Thursday night, and you were like, oh, see you next week. And I was like, oh, I'll see you on the weekend. Yeah. And then you're like, no, I'm off to Serbia. And I was like, you're off to Serbia for the weekend?
I know.
This isn't really making sense to me, but...
So funny.
No, tell if you could explain sort of that experience.
Yeah.
How it was Serbia for the weekend?
Mm-hmm. So I think I said to Tay as well, I was like, oh, I'll see you next week. She's like, where are you going? I was like, oh, just Serbia. She was like, ha. I'm like, no, actually, just Serbia. I think I was in Serbia for 3 days, and it took me like 4 days to get there. Like it was perfect. The travel time was long, but that was part of a 3-on-3 competition that I won with a team in January, so before I was contracted, and the prize was a trip to Serbia to play in like a world finals thing against different countries. Ridiculous. And I remember saying, I was like, I feel so bad about this. I'm definitely not going as soon as I was picked up by Melbourne. And it was actually my mum was like, well, maybe just ask, see what they say. It isn't all flight, everything is paid for trip to Serbia. So I was like, okay. That Mick was just wonderful, and the club in general. I think because it was before my contract and it was such an amazing opportunity, they were really prepared. Sammy as well, just in terms of keeping me really engaged in the program, but allowing me to literally dip off and then return pretty seamlessly. So yes, something I'll really be grateful for forever.
And the experience itself, like being over there, the tournament, how did it all play out?
I was dreading it. I was dreading it because I felt guilty about leaving. It felt so silly with the team obviously in season and playing, and I was going to miss the girls and miss sessions, even though it was only a couple. But I'm glad I went because it was just amazing. I spent the whole time just going around introducing myself to people all over the world and being like, now we're friends. It was so fun.
So you were on your own recruitment journey, recruitment of friends.
Pretty much every time, like we were all staying in the same place, and so the lifts, we all used the same lifts, and pretty much every time you went into a lift you were with someone from a different country, whether that was like Egypt or Japan or whatever, and I'd just go around, there's 4 per team, or like 4 women, 4 men, and I'd just shake everyone. Oh wow. Shake everybody's hand.
Sorry, the microphone just fallen.
Hello microphone, are you okay? Shake everyone's hand and be like, hey, hello, nice to meet you all, good luck for your games.
Were you giving like a little self-pitch or hey, I'm Saraid.
Have business cards.
Yeah.
Buy my novel.
Yeah. No. I'm really nice, I'm really friendly, I'm sporty, I'm smart.
Definitely not. I think it was more like, how's the weather in Serbia, hey? So hot. Wow. I'm getting burnt.
This girl must be so interesting.
Yeah, I'm really fun. These Australians know how to make small talk.
Yeah, they
that
do.
was basically the main.
A few times you've mentioned your family, of which you're super close with. They were, I guess, quite heavily involved, I believe, with your basketball career. Are they just as invested in your footy journey too?
They are. It's funny. Mum, especially like with learning names. Mum, she's a studier of names.
Really?
Yeah. Every time I finish training, she wants to know like who I've spoken to, so she can just
piece it all together.
Names. Yeah, it's so cute. Dad was always the footballer. Dad grew up playing, and he played quite high level footy. Mum was always the basketballer. And played like high level basketball. And me going through basketball, Mum was often the one that coached me, especially when I was younger, and then when I was older with just advice. And Dad's was more generic sort of sport advice because his background was more football. Now that I've come to football, Mum's really taken up like vigorously learning the rules. First of all, has not dented her advice dispensal. She still absolutely loves to give some out.
What sort of advice is she giving?
In terms of like aggression and being competitive and being assertive, all of those kind of things. Now like the new phrases is like coming forward, that kind of,
Yeah, okay, she's got the lingo.
Yeah. And then Dad's is probably more specific. It's funny. It's funny how it sort of fluctuates dynamics, but it's just like manifested in a different way, but it's still very similar.
Yeah.
But very lucky. Everything can be credited back to them. So thanks, Mum and Dad. Love you.
That's really nice.
Thanks, Lil. I try.
Our D's fans, unless headed to the scrimmage, probably haven't seen your strengths on full show. What would D's fans expect from you, I guess? Your strengths, the way you play, what position you've been training and playing in. I guess Saraid Taylor is a footballer. How would you describe yourself?
Oh, now you're asking for a pitch, are you?
Yeah, now I want a pitch.
I'm a backliner, so I play in the back. And I would say my game is very much about like contest and hopefully communication, that kind of thing. Basically what Mum was saying in terms of like aggression and really sort of spirit, wanting to win. I love the brand of football that Melbourne plays. I love being part of the back line with those other athletes. They're so incredible to learn from and work with. What other part of your question have I missed?
No, that's pretty much it.
Was that pretty much it?
Yeah. Aggressive defender who loves playing with spirit and wants to win. Sounds like a pretty good teammate, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think you said it much better than I did. But
I just summarised
what Lil said.
Yeah. So your defensive, do you think you played a similar sort of role in the basketball court or quite different? How do you go with, I guess, playing a physical sport versus what was not a physical sport growing up with?
Yeah. I would say basketball it's funny. Like, it is so different and it is so similar. Basketball is always really physical, especially at the high levels. It's just not as explicit. You're not tackling people from all directions and smacking them into the ground. No. Like, that's pretty much the only difference. But otherwise, like, it's very, even like with the rebounding and stuff, it can be very, very similar. The adjustment has been the contact coming from different places and just like the level of it. But it's nothing really more than a wrestle. So I kind of love it, a good old wrestle. And I think especially like with the way that women's footy has progressed and just the continuation of skill increase, everyone's tackling so much more safely and just well. So yeah, it isn't something that really scares me. I think it's been transferred across. Okay. Thanks to some really good coaches. Thank you to all my football coaches.
Great work. So appreciative. You've mentioned a couple of times, I guess, the progression of women's sport, and you're really passionate about, I guess, seeing that level of investment, whether it be from high powers back down or just the general public, I guess, investing their time and level of interest into women's sport, whether it be footy, whether it be basketball. Can you talk us through, I guess, where that passion's grown from? It probably makes sense to say your own personal experience, but then why you've been so invested in, I guess, spreading that message and what sort of lengths you're going to inspire the next generation and have more people on the journey of women's sport?
Sorry. That was a good question. I nearly choked on my saliva. I don't even know where to start with that question. I think it has definitely evolved for me. That sort of advocacy, and we get such a platform with sport, like in professional sport, that we're really lucky to be able to have those kind of messages we care about. It probably goes all the way back to my parents, since I was born, have run a charity, a not-for-profit, where they work with children with disabilities, and their their philosophy has always been that essentially physical education is a human right for everybody. And I've never really thought of sport or like physical activity as a human right, because usually you think like water and housing and that kind of safety. But when you look at the skills that sport can provide people with, and like the confidence and the community and all of those different things that we probably take more for granted, it absolutely is, because it just provides people with so much more access to other people and to other facets of themselves. And that being sort of my childhood, I'd say, being introduced to people that were living very different experiences to me, maybe not be able to walk, might not have hands, might have neurodivergence, all those sort of things. It's definitely, I didn't probably realize how much it has affected me, but yeah, very much deep inside there is such an impulse to in any way I can spread that kind of opportunity and access. And it's even more specific when you think of like girls and women who disproportionately don't get access to sport, especially at a high level, or drop out early as children. I just think it is one of those most powerful things that people can be involved with, and therefore everyone should be able to access it.
Wow. Well said.
It's a bit fumbly.
No, not at all.
I wish I could edit it. But
no, it's definitely inspiring what you're doing, and I guess just spreading that message and advocacy, not only for women's sport, but you are very passionate about, I guess, a lot of holistic issues that we're faced on a day-to-day. And it's probably a good segue to discuss, like at the moment it's Indigenous Round. We're currently rebranded as NAM Football Club, which is something that I'm really proud of as a player and just someone in the community that's supportive of AFL and the footy club itself. But how do you, I guess, how does that make you feel, and is that something you're proud to be part of, a footy club that's very much inclusive and trying to, I don't know, continue the way we go about things and really, I guess, push for that equality and equal access you mentioned?
Yeah. it's an indescribable honour. Like, I have never been part of a sporting organisation that has rebranded themselves to like a traditional cultural name. I just think it's incredible. And I feel so lucky and proud, as you say, to be able to wear these colours and represent this club. I think Melbourne's a real pioneer in this space. I think it's overdue. I think it's overdue in every club, in every sporting body, and in the government. But in terms of these kind of actions that sport can show, they can take, yeah, it's absolutely wonderful that Melbourne is really leading these kind of conversations. And all I want to do is just want to see it spread. You just want to see it happening everywhere. That's why Indigenous Round starts those conversations, and it's just so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's obviously been a really tricky sort of week, and will be a tricky and really difficult time for a lot of people. So for us, as we say, to be the Naarm Football Club is something really special, and hopefully a lot of people can feel proud to be part of this footy club for this weekend, because there's obviously a lot of anger and heartache that's spread right across the community through some tough times, obviously with the referendum vote and that not being passed. And I think, as you say, it's a really pivotal time for Indigenous Round and for people to have these conversations. It's obviously heartbreaking as a white Australian that not enough people have been able to support the referendum, but I guess as we all wake up on Sunday morning, I guess it's time to get to work and find a way forward. So it's a really special time to be Naarm this weekend, as it was last weekend, and to play on Wurundjeri country this weekend will be another really important occasion to celebrate our First Nations people, the people that have played for the Naarm Football Club, the people that support us, and everyone in between. So it's a really special weekend.
For sure.
Are you looking forward to the weekend's game?
I am, definitely.
Big clash against North?
Big clash. Everyone tune in. I'm sure everyone watching will probably already be tuning in, but yeah, it's very exciting. It'll be a great showcase of football, and as you say, it'll be a really good showcase of women's footy and footy in general, and also a very special occasion.
Love it. Well, we look forward to having all our supporters down at Icon Park this weekend. It's going to be an absolute cracker. Saraid Taylor, thank you for your company on the podcast. You've been incredible, and I'm sure the listeners have loved hearing your story and you speaking to footy and life and all things so eloquently.
Lil, thank you for having me. Lil Chats. Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called.
We love it.
We love it. Thanks so much. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.